My name's Eli Delaney, and I have the honor of meeting some pretty cool people. These are the entrepreneurs, the artists, the creatives, the game changers that are making a positive impact in the people that they meet. And I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet can get you anywhere you want to go. And this show is my way of sharing them with you. It's my way of also helping you be cool people. All right, welcome back, everybody. Eli here, and today on Me Cool People, I have a cool guy that I've gotten to know here locally in the DFW area, Scott Neal, and he is the owner of Neill Insurance Brokers. He started in 2021 after selling his farmer's agency and has grown to over $1 million in revenue with 4 staff and a virtual assistant. And just in case you were thinking we're going to sit here and talk about insurance all day and we're about ready to hit pause, we are not going to talk about that. We're actually going to talk about growing a team, because he has done an amazing job of growing his company with his team and putting all the parts and pieces in place from the beginning. So with that said, Scott, thanks for coming and hanging out today.
What's up, Eli? Hashtag Meet Cool People, man. I've been waiting forever to get on this podcast, and I know I've been out of town and I've been trying to schedule it, but I'm super happy to be here, and I'm an open book, man. So I'm ready to dive in and share my story.
No, I love it. Thank you. And I love the fact you approached me about being on the show, and most of the time, and you and I talked about this, most of the time when people come to me, it's like, they're just looking for exposure. And it's like, hey, I would be a great guest for your show. No, that's not how it works. But you came to me and we actually had a really cool conversation about what you're doing on growing a team. And I know you've been talking about that a lot lately, especially through the networks that we're part of with Success Champions and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, he's talking about some really good stuff that every level of entrepreneur, whether you're a brick and mortar or a solopreneur coach working out of your house, these are all principles that we all should really know. So give us a little bit more of the background story, how you got started in this. I mean, I know you said that you sold your farmer's agency. Let's go ahead and start with, like, how long did you have that before you decided to go out and become independent?
Yeah. So, man, again, I appreciate you having me on. And my story is pretty simple. I've always loved sales. I went to Oklahoma State University. I graduated with a finance and marketing degree. I was actually a wrestler. So I'm super competitive, but also super ADD. Like, my work day is not an 18-hour drawn out at the office. I'm very quick. If I'm at the office for 4 hours, 6 hours, whatever, I have a game plan. And so, that's the one thing is, what's something that's hot, fast paced that I can make good money and serve my community. And so insurance was the name of the game. So basically right out of college, I got recruited by New York Life. I did life insurance out of the Fort Worth office, and they were still recovering from the 08, 09 crisis. And they actually shut down my first job. I was there a year in 2010, and then they shut down the office and they're like, you can go to Dallas. And I was like, nah, I really don't want to move to Dallas. So I stayed in Fort Worth and looked for some other jobs and got recruited actually by a district manager at Farmers Insurance to recruit and eventually become my own agency owner. And fast forward, I did that successfully for about until 2021. So 10 years, 2011 to 2021. And we were top 5% agency in the country, Chopper Club, Championship, President's Council. And it was a blessing. It was a very good start to my career in insurance. And I love doing what I did. But anyone that's in insurance knows that the best way to actually create a legacy is start your own independent practice. The big difference is you own your book and you have equity in your own independent practice, versus if you're captive, you're still at the mercy of what the company tells you to do, and you only have one product really to sell. So we wanted more offerings for our clients, and that's why we made the move. It was a great 10 years. We did very well. I learned how to hire. I learned how to fire. I learned how to mentor. I learned how to run the books. And so going independent was a very strong move for us. Or so we thought, until the market tanked in 2022. Because anybody that looks at their home or auto or business insurance are like, these rates are ridiculous. And so, we've had our ups and downs, but we're having a really good year so far, and super excited to share more with you. So
Awesome. I love it. And with all of that, you've gotten to that point, like when you went out on your own, and this is where the questions start really coming in. When you went on your own, obviously you're starting out by yourself, just like all of us do. But what was when you first started, did you already have the plan of I'm going to grow this and so I need to plan for it now? Or did you do like most of us do and figure out later it's like, oh crap, I've already got a whole bunch of stuff. I'm overworked and now I need some people.
exactly.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, man. When I was a farmer's agent, I was really just a glorified employee. I didn't
Right.
know how to run the books. I didn't have a bookkeeper. I didn't have a CPA. I didn't have a business coach. I didn't have any of that. I was just selling insurance and had
Okay.
staff. I was good at hiring and bringing on teams. So at my peak at Farmers, I had 8 staff and a VA. And what's crazy is when you go independent, we have so much more technology because Farmers was limited on what you could use. So
Right.
we actually created a lot of our own technology and systems, and it helped me minimize my staff to maximize their potential. So now I have 4 staff
Hmm.
that basically do the. We're already a larger book than we were with Farmers with half the staff.
Right.
And so, I know one thing we're going to talk about today is SOP, standard operating procedures. But, when you're an insurance person, you're either a salesperson and you just want to stay small and you just want to have maybe 1 staff or whatever. But if you want to grow in this business, you've got to learn to trust your team. And so
Hmm.
I've always been adamant about hiring the right staff and having operation procedures in place so I could duplicate myself. Again, I'm not an 18-hour workhorse. I'm not, man. I can't do it, dude. I'm
Right.
never. I've got a family now. I've got a wife and kids, and a 4 and a 2-year-old. So if I got to leave work to take them to the doctor, or if I've got a day off with my kids, I'm going to take it off, and I can count on my team to do that.
Right.
And you mentioned SEN. It's a great networking group. Shout out to them. But a lot of these solopreneurs, they are reluctant to hire their first staff, and
Right.
it's usually because of money,
Hmm.
and that's the biggest reason, or they don't have systems in place to do that.
Right.
And so that's my biggest thing is I'm real big on systems in place, and having if someone came to my office that had no idea and they just got newly licensed in insurance, I'm fairly certain we could get them hitting the ground running just based on what we have sitting around for them to learn how to do quotes, service
Mhm.
accounts, do all that stuff. So
That's awesome. And I love hearing that because like for me, I always encourage my clients to start building those SOPs way before they think of them. They think they need it because of the simple fact that like for me, I always tell people it's like you want to position yourself to be able to hire it out, to hand that piece off to somebody else at some point, even if you're nowhere near ready now. For 2 reasons. Number one, the ability to get it off your plate so you're not scrambling when you do decide to hire somebody. But the second thing is you build the SOPs partially for yourself because you are human. And if it's all sitting up here in your head, you're going to forget stuff and you're going to screw it up. And if you've got that SOP, that actual step by step process of what you need to do, and you follow the steps, you'll realize that you'll even be more efficient and more effective than you had been previously, just because you're literally just going off of a checklist instead of trying to think about what the steps are.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what's the point of owning a business if you can't grow, right? And
Right.
so even if you still just want to be a one man or one woman shop, it's always good to have your SOPs in line because you can always update those every year and revisit them. It's like accounting.
Hmm.
I look over my P&L at least once or twice a month with my bookkeeper. And so, SOPs, you're the boss. You've got to have,
Right.
if you have a business, it needs to be findable, and it needs to be basically duplicatable, if that's a word. And you got to be able to have your processes written down because you never know. And that's the biggest
Right.
thing is, the day you think you need someone, you're probably already too late. You're probably too deep in the brush.
Hmm.
It's one of those things like you always want to be looking to hire someone, even if you're not going to always having that mindset of I need to find someone to replace myself. And I remember my first employee was someone I found on Fiverr, if
Okay.
you know what that is. I mean, it
Yeah.
was someone to help me with social media posts.
Okay.
And I mean, it was small. I think it was like $10 an hour,
Right.
and they brought in you got to look at your ROI, what your return on investment is. And I was making money off of this $10 an hour person. And so I was like, okay, now I have too many leads coming in. I need to hire my next producer. And
Okay.
so, you look at like what is going to help me grow and where am I hurting? And honestly, the biggest thing is what the hell do I not want to do? What do I hate doing in the business? Like I
Yep.
hate, I'm good at it because I've done it for so long and I still do it. I still work in the business and on it, but quoting and just doing that, I've got to have staff to do that.
Right.
And so, I've had producers. My first year as a farmer's agent, I had 2 producers, and I grew on that. And then I hired a client services manager.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, to help manage the books and to do reshops and stuff like that. And then you just kind of grow from there. You got to know when it gets uncomfortable and you're bursting at the seams. You already need to have something in place to take on those roles and those tasks versus waiting until, the biggest thing we see from solopreneurs is I'm too big already for just myself. I don't have time to bring on someone because I'm got so much coming in.
Right.
Well, maybe 3, 4, 6 months ago, whatever, you should have started looking at hiring someone to help expand your growth.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that up, and you answered a whole bunch of questions just in that little bit that I was already thinking. Is like I was going to ask you what was the first person that you brought in, and you did bring in the fact that your first person was somebody off of Fiverr that would help you with your social media. That's the cool thing is that we live in a world right now is you could get somebody that just does a couple of small tasks that are either just time consuming that can free you up or things that you just don't like to do. Like for me, I love writing. I mean, I enjoy writing my own stuff, but I don't like the posting part, the scheduling of that stuff down or creating graphics to go with it. I can do it. I'm very good at it. I come from a graphic design background, but I just don't enjoy it anymore. Or more importantly, like videos is a great example. Like I'm sure you've seen them, my 1-minute videos that I post all over. Those things, I don't mind recording them, but I sure as heck don't want to be editing them because that is not the best use of my time.
Right.
And if we just sit there and think about what are those things like that we're doing that we know they need to be done, but aren't things that we should be necessarily doing ourselves, whether we don't enjoy it or it's just not an effective use of your time. I mean, if your time is worth $150 an hour, yeah, hire that $10 an hour guy to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know how I determined that? I just wrote down a list of yes and no.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do I want to do this? No. Would I rather have someone do this and I create an SOP so they can do this? And that's as simple as it is. I mean, literally create a task list. And then, Eli, like you said, you can take it a step further. Look at your ROI. If I spend this much, how much time would that free me up to work on the other tasks that I like doing?
Right. No, I love it. Awesome. Now, with as you were building this out, and we've said a lot about SOPs. What is your process for creating SOPs? And let's kind of start from the beginning of like when you were looking at your first hire. How did you go about creating that so that person could do the job?
Well, I didn't have an SOP when I was first a farmer's agent. I had no idea
Right.
I had no idea what the hell that meant. I was just an employee. I was just selling,
Right.
But I would say I really started that in 2021 when we went independent, because you don't have the support of your company. Like they have your website, they have your CRM, your AMS. For those that don't know what that is, a CRM is basically your prospect tracker. It does all your emailing, yeah. And then your AMS for us is like where your actual clients are stored. So you can see renewals and premiums or claims or whatever. And so basically creating an SOP was you can't go independent and not have it. A farmer's agent, the company has a lot of that stuff, how to quote. They have the dashboard where you can go in and figure it out. But when you're independent, we're dealing with all kinds of stuff. Like we have ENS markets, we have 40 different companies to go through. And so we want to make it as simple as possible. And so we've got technology to help do that. But I mean, it's everything you can think of. When you get that first bit of technology, make an SOP on how to do it. Like we have this Stream Deck. Like this is a wonderful. Sorry, I can't, it won't reach. But
Yeah.
we have a Stream Deck.
Yeah.
It's a piece of technology that we use. I have no idea how the hell to set it up. I have no idea. I did it 3 years ago.
I
have
got,
no
I got
idea.
one too.
Yeah, yeah. So you know what
Yeah.
a Stream Deck is,
Yep.
and it's for gamers. But like it literally, for those of you who don't know, you press a button and it goes to that website.
Right.
So we have like 30 carrier websites on our Stream Deck, or we have our Google Drive, and we have all that. So just setting that up, you know, it's like,
no, I love that you shared that, because so like I have a Stream Deck. I actually have, because most of it is related to my video editing and stuff, or video production side. So, you know, for me to have the purple background and the Me Cool People and change scenes and stuff. I even have a foot pedal, which is pretty cool, because then I can switch scenes all together and without even touching any buttons, which is pretty slick. Just so you know, for anybody who's watching the video, when we switch to like whether it's me or whether it's Scott or both of us together, that's the foot pedal that's sitting on the floor right in front of me right now. Same company, by the way. But yeah, and that is great, because, you know, those are the kind of things people don't think about, is things that can help you become more efficient, like a Stream Deck, which is basically its design is to help, like if you want to, for video switching scenes and stuff like that, but you can program it to do a bunch of other stuff, which is what Scott just said. I've got that in a couple things. Like I have my project manager and my to-do list, both of those two pieces of software, literally I push a button and it opens up the browser.
Yeah,
And that's what he's talking about here.
It can open PDFs too. So we use ours to go to websites, but we also have it to where you can pop up a PDF. So if I'm doing a contractor, like a roofer, I can't just go to like Hartford or Travelers, and they don't do roofers. So I have to go to like a wholesaler, and you have to submit a manual application, which is a freaking beatdown. But you have to do like a cord 125, 126, a supplemental. All that is on my Stream Deck. So if I got a roofer that calls in, I can hit that button, send it to them, and we can do the application over the phone.
Nice.
There's so much use for it. But I know this podcast isn't about Stream Deck, but it's about technology. And my point is, when you get a piece of technology, do an SOP on how to get that set up.
Yeah.
Okay. Make it like, oh, I got a Stream Deck. This is what I did. This is how I set it up. You know, maybe record a video, you know, screen sharing, how you get it set up. And that's anything. Our sales process, everything is in an SOP. And so you've got to understand, you know, the time that people say they don't have to do it, they're already hurting themselves, because it's going to take more time in the long run to try and recover in your memory. Like you said, Eli, it's all up here, recovering in your memory, how to do that.
Yeah.
And that's going to be impossible, because we have 15 bits of technology that we use in our agency alone. And there's no way we could not have it documented, because someone that, if I'm out of the office for a week and we just got a new hire, like they're going to have no idea what the hell they're doing.
Right.
And so we make it sure it's plain and simple. So let's say you're a photographer. I mean, how do you upload pictures? Where do you go to process those pictures? You know, if you're doing canvases, who's your vendor for that? You know, have a streamlined process of like, from step one, getting a prospect, getting a client, how's your marketing, to how do I schedule? Okay, well, Calendly, how the heck do I use Calendly? You know, how do I take the pictures, and what format do they need to be in? All that stuff can be documented. And if you spend a week or even less doing that, you're going to save yourself months of work.
Right. Well, and with that, you know, it's not even something you have to do all at once. So, you know, I love that you're talking about this stuff, because this is the stuff I live for, this kind of stuff. And I'm building SOPs and stuff all the time. I just did one for a whole process that I'm doing with clients right now. And I haven't done this process like this before for a while. And I was like, you know what? I need to create that process, the step-by-step piece for it, which it took me for me to do this project for a client, took me probably 3 hours total, but a lot of that was building the SOP. So the next time I go to do this, it's going to take me a half an hour.
Exactly.
And that's the point behind any of these. And like you brought up like even recording videos and stuff. I've been a huge fan of that for literally decades now. And today we have it's so much easier. Like for us, I use Loom because it's
Yep.
quick and easy, and that's the lovely thing about it is like you record something and it's ready to watch within like a minute, and
Mhm.
which is awesome. But even if you don't have Loom or you don't want to pay for it, which by the way, the free version is like up to 5 minutes. And if your SOP
Mhm.
video is longer than 5 minutes, you need to break it into smaller ones anyway. So
Yep.
let's start with that. But even on Zoom, you can record yourself on Zoom doing like if you're doing stuff that's on a computer. So maybe you're doing Canva edits, or you're posting your blog posts or social media or whatever. You can open up a Zoom by yourself and record just yourself sharing your screen, talking through this process. And now you've got all the information that goes into your SOP. And one of the things that I'm a big fan of is record the video and then give it to your assistant and have them create the SOP out of it.
Yep. Or
Because
you can even use Chat GPT now. I mean,
you
you can
can.
you can submit a video and you can say, hey, make an SOP out of this. And
Yep.
it takes 20 minutes or whatever. But I mean, that's one thing I've been doing because I'm not very good at typing and my grammar sucks. I'll just record a video or I'll do a voice recording and I'll say, hey, make an SOP out of this. And it's done.
Right.
That's I didn't have that 10 years ago when I first started my farmer's agency. But now in the last couple of years, man, you can use Chat GPT for almost anything.
Right.
Um, and that's we hired our latest virtual assistant a couple of months ago, and that's how we do a lot of stuff, man.
Hmm.
Is especially new tasks that we haven't had done, we'll just record a video and send it to them, and it's done.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love it. And it is great. You could take those, transcriptions and have it help create a lot of it. And then you just fine tune it from there. Now, question for you, because people are probably going to get stumbling on this piece. How do you store your SOPs? Are they like a Google Doc
Google
or
Doc,
okay.
yeah, Google Drive. We use Google
Awesome.
Drive for
Okay.
everything. Because I can change it on my phone.
Hmm.
I can access it easily, if there's an issue. Yeah, so Google Drive is probably the number one. I know there's other things like ClickUp and stuff like that, but
Right.
I'm simple. I want to keep it simple, and that's the best way to
Yeah.
do it for us is
Oh yeah.
create a Google Drive. That's where we keep our contracts too for our staff, carrier appointments, licensing, all that stuff is in Google Drive. So.
Okay, nice. Well, and I've always been a big fan of that. And one thing with me is I always start with a Google Drive process with everything, because then I have it no matter what. And then we'll even take it and break it up into our project manager. So if there's 10 steps, we might actually create 10 tasks
Mhm.
based on this activity, and their check boxes for each one. And that tends to work out really well. But we always start with the whole process is in a Google Drive, because worst case scenario, if we ever switch platforms, we're okay. If some piece of software goes down, we're
Mhm.
okay. And if we need to update something, it's like, let's go back to the master list and update it there, and then
Mhm.
filter it out as anyplace else.
Yeah, Google Drive is definitely that's the cheapest way to start.
Right.
If you're a solopreneur watching this and you're like, I don't know where to start, Google Drive is where you do. Just do basic. I mean, we have our vision, our mission statements. I even keep my budget on there. I keep everything.
Nice.
You know, so.
Very cool. Awesome. Now let's shift gears a little bit with this. I know you've got virtual assistants and you've got in-house staff. What is the difference on that, and how did those come to be in that scenario?
I asked my staff, what the heck can I do to help offload some stuff on your plates? And they all agreed. So I
Yep.
have a virtual assistant right now. All they do is reshops for auto and home insurance. So just so you know, we do personal lines insurance and commercial lines. Commercial lines, I still do a lot of that because there's a lot of stuff that takes years to learn how to do it. And so, I'm still doing a lot of the large commercial mid-markets, stuff like that.
Hmm.
But for all the auto and home insurance, because that's pretty turnkey, and people want to shop rates every year now. It's just the way it is. We
Right.
had to have someone come in and help us do that. My CSR, Melissa, was doing that. She still does, but she's tied up working with an audit or something for a client. We can't have her shopping an auto policy.
Right.
I need to have a virtual assistant do that. And so, we hired them, and basically they're not licensed, so they can't bind coverage, but they can at least start the quotes and
Hmm.
run MVRs, include reports, and all that for us. So it makes our lives a lot easier. Hey, Bob Smith called, his rates went up 40% with X company, shop them with here. And so one thing that's cool about our agency is, yes, we have lots of carriers for personal lines, but we have a rater. And so we have like 30 companies that are in one rater, and it
Hmm.
gives it spits out a preliminary quote for the top 3 carriers. And so we have a good idea. So that cuts down on time versus going into, 40 different websites and doing that. So,
Right. Nice. No, that's cool. And it's stuff like that can be really powerful because it's a low energy job. It's like it's not high cerebral to punch in some numbers, but it's something that's time consuming. And
yes.
those are the kind of things that are great to find a virtual assistant or some form assistant. Now, what are kind of going on to that? What about like the differences of a VA versus an in-house kind of person?
Yeah.
What are the differences in the logistics of dealing with that?
In-house drives new business. VAs are retention based.
Okay.
That's what their core focus is. We were spending 30 hours a week just reshopping stuff,
Hmm.
and that tied up a lot of space. So my team could focus more on sales. Now I still have a CSR, Melissa, who's in-house doing all the customer service stuff, but that's for like big stuff that a VA can't handle, like claims or
Right.
audits, or I need help explaining why my rate went up $300 a month for adding my 16-year-old. I don't want a VA from the Philippines trying to explain that to a client.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if you're in-house, you're focused on new business production or higher IQ customer service.
Right. That's what I was going to really go on, is that I think that that's where the real difference can be, especially on the customer service standpoint of things that need, especially if it's somebody they need to talk to a real person. A lot of
Mhm.
times somebody more local is going to be a much better fit for that situation, because we've all been on there when we get on a phone call with somebody and we can't understand them, and that just gets frustrating. It really does.
Right.
But that does not mean that that person is not knowledgeable. It just means it's not the right fit for where we need them to be. And
Yeah,
so
you don't want to have a VA be the face of the agency. I'll tell you
Mhm.
that much. You still want to be the face of it
Right.
in your team. So that's the big thing. If our guy needs to reach out to a client, he'll just send an email. Hey, you
Mhm.
added a driver. Can I get that driver's license number or whatever? But
Right.
when it comes to communication, we are still the forefront. We don't want to outsource that, because what makes us different from Geico 1-800 number, or
Right.
whatever.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the big difference. What's the difference is we're there for our clients. We're local. And that's why we've grown so much in our area. We're the highest rated broker in our zip code.
Right.
And
Which is
so we
awesome.
did that because we don't just pawn everything off on someone else. We take care of everything in house. So,
Very cool. Awesome. This has been great stuff. So, as we're wrapping up here, is there anything else that you think we should cover that we didn't talk about yet?
um, man, you can't ever, if you want to grow, you have to duplicate yourself, whether that's through a virtual assistant or hiring in-house staff, or it could be a virtual staff,
Right.
someone that's still W-2 but they work remotely. um, think about, just look at the numbers. If I'm making 100,000 a year, how can I get to 500,000? How can I do that? You got to expand your sales. And so that's one thing we always looked at, was when we hired staff, we always looked at what's going to be the best bang for our buck. Can we afford it? And then how can we not afford it?
Right.
Like if we are not growing, it's because we don't have staff taking on quotes and producing leads and stuff
Mhm.
like that. That's the biggest thing. as you grow, you've got to manage, those processes. And so, not everyone's in a position to pay $80,000 a year for a staff person, but that doesn't mean, like I said earlier, you can't hire someone 10, 15, 20 bucks an hour to do these tasks, these menial tasks that you don't want to do.
Right. No. Awesome. I love it. Very cool. All right. Well, we are getting close. So we got two final questions. I always ask everybody these two questions. Last one's the easy one. How do people get a hold of you? Because I'm sure people are going to want to catch up more stuff. And just as a net little plug, if anybody needs an insurance quote, please definitely talk to Scott, because he's helping a lot of people I know personally. But before we get to that information, this is the Meet Cool People show. And I always ask everybody one simple question is, what do the words meet cool people mean to you?
Man, it's meeting people. Meet cool people has so many meanings to it, because you never know who the heck you're going to meet next. So always be open to meeting new people, whether it's for networking or a vendor service, or heck, it could even be your next hire. I don't know. I mean, one of my best hires was a lab tech, and never even thought about doing insurance, but she trusted me, and she really didn't like her boss. So she came and worked for me, and 3 years later, 4 years later, still working for me and loves what she does. So meet cool people means, man, go out there and see who the heck can help you in your business, and maybe you can help them too.
Awesome. Love it. Great words. So what is the best way for people to connect with you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, so it's neilinsurance.com/quotes. It's Neill, Neill Insurance, .com/quotes, or 682-237-7975. We're very competitive. We were in a very hard market in 21 and 22, and things are softening up. We just got 3 of our home carriers back, so we can write home insurance again, which was awesome. We couldn't do it for a couple of years. Or if you're a small business owner and you have no idea what the heck you're doing or what you need, we're here as a resource for you. So
awesome. Love it. Well, Scott, thank you so much for coming and hanging out today. It was a pleasure to have this conversation. And, what's funny is that we see each other all the time, but we don't get to really talk a whole lot. So when we do, we have some good conversations.
Yeah, man, it's all you're doing so well, man. I love your social media content, and you're growing like crazy, man. So I'm glad to be a guest finally. And like I said, man, I'm not perfect. I'm not the best business owner. I'm just really good at treating people well, and they don't leave me. I don't know why they stick around, but apparently they're doing something right. So
there you go. I love it. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, my friend. And for everybody listening, get out there. Have an amazing week. As always, if there's anything I can do to help you out, reach out. Let me know. Take care.
See you guys.
And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. Now, if you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to convertmoreclientsnow.com and see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rock star.